Hello and welcome to an Irish Magician Reviews Manhunt. So, let's get the formalities out of the way. This is just my opinion, that's all. There's no other stipulations except for the fact that I do take bugs into account. I don't give a damn what other people think of the game. That does not influence me whatsoever, but if you disagree with my opinion, that is fine. That's what should happen, you know? You should disagree with people. You should evaluate your things independently of other people, so chances are you will disagree with me. That is perfectly fine. No need to get angry about it. This game will it will have a strong viewpoint on the game, one of which, from reading other people's viewpoints, a lot of people don't agree with. Absolutely fine. There's no need to get pissed off about it. It's absolutely fine. Someone doesn't like or like something that you like the opposite, or that you there's nothing wrong with liking something that other people dislike and disliking something that people like. It doesn't matter. It really, honestly, people, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So that's the only thing I take into account, is my opinion and bugs. The other thing is, this is a spoiler review. It does say that in the playlist, and it does say this. It will say that in the video when I edit it. This is a spoiler-filled review, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to spoil every single thing within the game, but it does mean that it has a license to spoil anything. So you have been warned. Yeah. So the first thing I want to say really is, this game, when it came out in 2003, was very controversial. It was banned, I think, in certain places. I think when I've looked up stuff on it recently, that's what people go on about. I don't really care. I don't really care if it was banned in one place or the other. I don't care how gratuitous it is, whatever. I said this at the end of the playthrough. I think if a film, like The Human Caterpillar, in the 1970s, I think it was, or 80s, whatever it was, maybe even 70s probably. It basically was just like stitching human body parts together, by very, very gratuitous. I haven't seen it, I don't think, but it caused a lot of controversy. I think there's been sequels, and they haven't all been banned or anything like that. So there's a lot worse stuff in movies and TV programs than there is in games. And I think if you had the Human Caterpillar type stuff in games, you'd have it. People would be calling for it to be banned and stuff, like, or whatever. People are very fragile, and people think that people are just going to do stuff just because it's in games. But that's a different topic. For me, all that stuff is irrelevant. I do like a dark theme, and I did enjoy the dark theme in this game. It was darker probably than any game I've played, in terms of, like, it's a snuff game, You get kidnapped whenever you are just about to be put to death. You get shuffled away, and you get told to kill people. You have to kill people. Very dark theme, which I did appreciate. And but in terms of the gameplay, it's sort of a different thing altogether. I completely disassociate the gameplay with the theme. Again, mechanically, a game can be, thematically, a game can be really dark and stuff, but then if the gameplay is mundane or shit, then why does it matter, really? Let's get into this then. The game, one thing I have to say first is, okay, what is the game? Let's just talk about what is the game. The game is just, let me just select a scene, random scene. The game will have you execute people from behind. And you'll be using all sorts of different weapons. You'll be executing people. You'll be sticking up behind them, and if you wait a certain length of time, it'll be a yellow execution. I can't remember what it's called, but you have a violent execution and you have a brutal execution or something. They call it different things, but you sneak up behind someone and it's either a normal execution, a second tier execution, or a third tier execution. They don't seem to vary that much in terms of what you see visually on the screen. I mean, I've done a lot of grey executions that beheaded people or whatever. It is an extremely violent game, but the basic gameplay is just basically to sneak up behind people and then execute them, or later on you get guns and you can take people on more one-on-one. Well, you know, you can take people on more directly. You need a weapon to execute people, like I'm going to do here. And you can chuck stuff, like I can do that here. So you can chuck stuff, they come over to it. I didn't really actually do that much in the game, really. They're like, oh,
if I don't get my hands on this freak,
nothing's here.
take it out on someone else.
You can see he's still green, which means he's not alert, and then it gets to orange, they are alert, and then it gets to red, they're after you. Okay. I've done a red execution, the worst one possible, and you see the fiber wire just chops his head off. It's quite cool, you know what I mean? It is cool. I do appreciate it. And then you can actually use his head as a thing to chuck and kite people over. And you wear his head in the back of your belt. So you know, I appreciate that. The director, at least in the first half of the game, is constantly saying things like this. Because basically, the first about half of the game, it's more about melee and it's more about gangs that the director has set up. So you find out, again, this is completely spoiler filled, that it's a director who's doing this, just a big director. I don't know what films he's supposed to have directed, but it just alludes to the fact he's a big director, you know? And so he's just going to snuff, and he's basically hired all these gangs, or he's forced these gangs into doing this, and they're supposed to just look for you and to kill you. And you kill them first. And then later on in the game, which I'll show you later, so he's going to come to me, and I'm going to actually show you the hand-to-hand combat. Alright, so this is the melee combat. So you have to just press back on the left stick. And then you just take turns hitting each other. He's taking an awful beating.
Spill some of that tainted blood.
You wait for him to go. For us to go, as it says in his t-shirt, wait for him to go. You can usually get a combination of 3 if he hits you. If he does that, then you can press X to break his grip. You can actually okay, I got pummeled there. I never actually used that mechanic too much in the game. In fact, from the first chapter or two, I learned how crap it was. I never did it because I just hated it that much. So that's that, right? You pummel him in the ground. I mean, if I beat him, he'd just be dead. You know, you kick him when he's down and kill him. Let's quit to the sequel, or the title sequence. Now, so you sneak up behind him and you can execute him. The red and the yellow, whatever, with each different weapon will have different animation. The stealth, you have to go at a certain speed. It seemed like the enemy was very glitched. Yeah, well, let me. Okay, so that's the base mechanics of the game, right? And then later on, you get guns, and you get guns. So you get like SMGs. You get let's show a bit of that. I suppose the best. And I'll show you like SMGs, pistols, all this sort of stuff, right? But I have to talk about. So I've got an assault rifle here, which is the last weapon you get. You get different pistols. They try to implement some sort of shit mechanics in the end here. There's CCTV, which is it's not really right. So if you get into the path of the CCTV, then people can flood to your direction if they're around, if they're still alive. Or you can shoot the CCTV, and then the same thing happens. They flood direction. It doesn't really make much of an impact. So this is what you do. In auto aims, when you get close enough, but you have to do headshots really, especially later on in the game. You have to do headshots because if I shoot him here, right, it's not going to do much. You have to headshot. Yeah, and because none of the weapons headshot from a distance, except the sniper rifle, which is very hard to control. You don't get the sniper rifle very much, so you're basically having to like kill one and then just fuck off for the most part. You can't just infinitely, you have to get headshots really when you're this late on in the game. You cannot look, so I'm looking at my right shoulder now, right? You cannot look on your left shoulder, which means that if you're going around right corners, then you can see quite a lot, right? If you're going around left corners, it's just a lot more awkward. So I can look around right corners and I can still aim the gun. Now I can see around left corners, but I'd have to do like awkwardness like this, and I can't aim at the same time. So that's the thing that's put into a lot of some modern games don't have that, but it's a thing that is put into a lot of modern games. And obviously this is not a modern game. This was released in 2003, and this review is going up in 2021. So it's quite old. So that's the basic mechanics of the game. It doesn't really get any more complicated than that. Obviously it is a combination of melee and guns, and it is a combination of different types of weapons, different types of gods, but the gods are all sort of much of a muchness. In the beginning it's all gang members, as I said, and these are the director's own gods that he's hired. This whole private army, for some reason he has a private army, and in between you get to shoot police as well. You shoot police as well. So because I think Starkweather has basically just reported you to the police, doesn't really make all this clear. You do get some escort quests. You will escort a tramp, and I can show you that actually. Let me just quit out. And you get to escort a reporter. You just tell him to stay put. In the tramp quest, he does just stay put. In the reporter quest, she will come to you after a certain amount of time if you leave her and you're too far away, which is a wee bit annoying. But where is it? It's not kill the rabbit. It is be drunk driving, presumably. So yeah, that's the basic mechanics. It doesn't really get you.
Look lonely, so I got you some company. Unfortunately, the innocents thought better of it and locked them up. You're gonna have to bust them up.
Yep. So the whole premise of so for the last couple of chapters, wherever you've escaped and you're gone rogue, and you at the end you do kill Starkweather, which is good. Which is a good, you need that needed to happen here. You don't want any nuanced, frothy shit. You just want to kill him, and you did. You eviscerated him with a chainsaw. But only in a cutscene, unfortunately, you didn't get to do that. Well, you did. You got to initiate it, but then it did it in the cutscene, which is quite unsatisfying. But at least he died. I've got a knife here. But yeah, I can't think of too many more mechanics really. There's just the escort quests that break it up a wee bit. There's the stuff that, okay.
Oh, it's like a little flower.
Now you can see here that you can. I can't hide. I did it wrong there. You can hide in the corner though, and they are pretty stupid. So if I just go around the corner here, you can see I'm already away from him. And as long as he's not red,
like he used to.
then you get away. Now they do say stupid stuff like that. They seem to be obsessed with their daddy. I don't know if Sam Houser is obsessed with his dad, but yeah, They do say stupid stuff, and some of it is quite comical, but it does get very repetitive. The director's commentary is quite good, but then it stops somewhere, and then it does get repetitive. For the first couple of scenes, it's really cool, and then like it just kind of dies off by being repetitive. But he says some really cool things, like just dark things, you know. He's gonna see me.
I'm gonna show you some puppies. Nice little puppy. Where are you, you little shit?
So I have to wait till he's green again, really. So yeah, that's the gameplay. There's nothing else to say really. At the end, there's like this pigman thing which doesn't explain either, and you got to stab him 4 times, or 3 times, and then it was very annoying. But that's the end level. Just before you kill Starkweather. Painkillers can heal about 50% of your health. You don't pick them up unless you need them. Yeah, there's diversion stuff. There's different melee weapons, but they all act much the same. Yeah. So those are the mechanics. That's the basics of the game. It is a very basic game. It classifies itself somewhat as a stealth game, and you do sneak up a lot and kill people. But a lot of the game is also just action orientated, and it doesn't really, a lot of the surfaces you walk on are pretty loud. So really, I think it fails as a stealth game. But I'll go into that later. The buggy mechanics. The game is very buggy. Like, you have constant AI glitches, and there was one which just like he just was running in circles, like he was just going like this, just looking in 3 directions, and then I sniped his head off. But besides for that, sometimes the AI, will see you when they shouldn't, and don't see you when they should, and sometimes one bullet will, the bullets. There's a big disparity between the amount of bullets needed to kill people at times. And the bit at the pig at the end, the pig was just chasing after me. He was just waiting for me. Like, I would wait, I'd be patient. There was nothing to throw, so there was nothing to do that I could do externally. I just needed to wait for the pig to go around. And you've played it in loads of games. There's the trap. Before, where you have to just wait for the pig to to go around, and then you stab him or whatever. And he just seemed to wait for me, and I couldn't discern where his position was. There was no way to discern it. Like, the game does have a radar system, but I don't know what it's supposed to represent. It's not supposed to represent any sort of reality. And the hardest difficulty, it's probably turned off, but it's the only way you know where people are, really. Except for when people make noise, which they frequently talk to themselves. In fact, they pretty much all talk to themselves. The dialogue is, I would say, above average, but I would also say it's extremely repetitive, and you get some dialogue that's from the first chapter that's like in the 5th chapter, and then different gangs will say the same stuff constantly, and different groups of people, like the police will say the same things as well, his own personal guards. But yeah, it's a buggy mess of a game. It's constant glitches. There was other things that was kind of very, very typical of this time, where say there was a door. Right, I don't know if it put this under bugs or just really badly done gameplay, but say there was a door here, right, and there was 3 or 4 people behind it, and they wouldn't come out no matter how much noise I made, so I had to open the door by just pushing into it, and then they would all just shoot me or whatever, or you'd have to just be lucky that they wouldn't blast you into Kingdom Come. Yeah, not good game design. And there was also other bits, a lot of other bits where, you'd be facing a person with a gun, and he'd just literally, he'd go to you, oh, there he is. He would, didn't think he normally patrolled, he'd just go back to that doorway, but he would literally just run, he would run like full tilt, right? I'm not going to do that here because it'll attract him, and then he would like shoot you instantly, like auto aim onto you, which did happen a lot back in the day. It's certainly, a lot of the game design would not be acceptable in 2021. It's just not very good. All broken. All buggy. So yeah, you get to pick up whatever they have. Pick up a sickle or whatever.
Well, what do you think of your new friend? You look good together, Cash. Really, you do.
You know, it's quite funny, this sort of
I'll only
dialogue.
open any gates if he's with you, alive and well. Now, get going. Entertain me.
So he comes with you, and you gotta go to gates with him. But anyway, there's no need to show you all this. But yeah, you have to just tell him to stay. You have to tell him to stay, and then guide him on whenever you clear the area out. You do have to wipe out most of the people in the game. You don't have to wipe out everyone. I don't think you can get away with not killing some people, but I don't think many, to be honest. Yeah. So besides for the buggy mess, what do I think of the game pros and cons wise? Well, I'd say as I say, the pros, it's a dark themed game. I love some of the dialogue. It's well voice acted, although Catch isn't well voice acted. It's well voice acted in a hammy kind of GTA type way, you know. There's a lot of similarities between GTA and this, and both the combat and different noise sound effects and stuff. Of course, it was made by the people who made GTA. And I think GTA 4 was already had been made by the time this was made, but certainly GTA 3 had. And I think I'd looked it up before. I think GTA 4 had been made. And let's see, what would be the best thing? This is the reporter one. Yeah. Yeah. So I like the dark theme. I liked sneaking up on people and executing them, although it was quite frequently buggy, and there was a load of different surfaces. There was loads of different surfaces that when you walked on even normally, they looked around. There was all that sort of stuff. You know, you didn't seem like you didn't feel like you'd made that much noise, and then they would just detect you and turn around. If I'm walking, you can see on the radar how much noise I'm making. If I run, I get caught. That's in shadows, hiding in the darkness. So in theory, it has some rudimentary but decent enough fundamental sort of solid stealth design. But in practice, I mean, okay, so fine. If you go in here and they're not on red, they don't see you. Sometimes they do if they get really close. That seems to work pretty well. But the sound did not work as well. But I did enjoy the dark aspect of it, and the fact that there's no morality in it. You just killed. That's all you did.
I just bought a new boat. I think I might go up to the lake this weekend.
So this is a level where you deal with the cops.
This is the darndest 10103.
So I kill one. Then I have to run. You can get away with a decent amount, like it is a decent challenge. So sometimes I got confused, like there was quite a lot of glitches in terms of they would recognise her, they do attack her, but like, so she's just standing out in the open. Is he going to attack her this time? Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't, but generally speaking she was safe enough. And they would shoot, yeah, that's another bug, they would shoot just random places. Okay, he's shooting her this time. So, yeah, I mean, I did enjoy some of the gunplay, even though it was pretty bad, to be honest, mechanically. It was quite satisfying, and especially when you got headshots, which obviously was quite a lot of the time. probably will not see her now because she's in the dark.
Move it!
No, they will see me, probably.
You're probably jonesing. Come on out. I got some methadone for you.
See, that's just, some of the lines are really good. Now, it was a decent length game, and
Just a matter of time.
I would
now,
say that
just a
the sound
matter of
effects were
time.
quite, like in your face,
So damn
and I think
dark. Can hardly see anything back here.
it kind of wanted to paint this dark theme, but really I think it's just over the top. And without the music, I don't think that. Although the theme of the game is dark, I think the gameplay isn't really that dark. I mean, yeah, you've got executions, whatever. But how many games nowadays you have executions? And yes, it was a product of its time and all this stuff. But how many games nowadays can you go up behind them and slice their head off with something cooler than a crowbar? The swords and all sorts of stuff. There's loads of games like that now. So it's certainly not a novelty into 2021, and I can only review it from when I play it. And and it's smoother in other games, it's better in other games, the stealth works better in other games, the AI is better in other games. One thing that was very poor in this game was level design. There was a wee bit of diverging path in the end couple of levels, but before that it's very linear, it doesn't feel very good. Stealth games are all about level design, and if this classifies itself as a stealth game, then it really is poor in level design and the AI, and mechanics, so it doesn't really have much going for it. It is a poor game as a stealth game. By the way, I was telling you about the cranes earlier, wasn't I? Then I got distracted. There was an annoying section with the cranes where you had to pick this fridge up with the cranes and kill people with it or whatever. It wasn't very good. When it tried to diverge off, when it tried to different mechanics and stuff, it didn't really work very well. So he's gone back there. I need to kill him though because I need to get the gun. But anyway, I don't need to do this. That's just a shooting level basically. I did sort of split itself up into shooting levels, melee levels. Shooting levels were all from about the middle of the game, or a mixture of the two. At the end of each scene, the Starkweather's guards kidnapped you again and then put you in the next area for the next scene. The whole premise obviously is he's believing all this, and then obviously at the end, some of the things just didn't make sense. Like one of the scenes required you to kill this person in a pink dress, and then put them at the bottom of the stairs or something. Put them at the bottom of put them at the doorway to the next scene or whatever. It's like it didn't make sense. It was literally just a couple of 10 meters away from where you killed them, and it didn't really make a lot of sense. I don't think it explained that. And then there was another allusion to a man in a pink dress. I don't know, it just didn't make any sense. And then whenever a couple of scenes from the end, I think it was the third last scene, you got put into a garage kind of place, and you had to open it, and then the guards would come and look for you. But like they picked you up, and then they put you there, and then they seemed to just go off somewhere, maybe distracted by something, I think it was. But then they seemed to forget where they put you, or I mean, you didn't just suddenly end up there; they brought you there. A lot of the stuff just didn't explain a lot of the stuff. It tried to do some sort of storyline where, with this journalist here, with this journalist here. This is the piggy scene. I'll show you this. This is the last scene, the last chapter. There's 20 chapters. Yeah, try to do some sort of thing with the journalist where, she exposed Starkweather or whatever, and then you had to protect her and all that. Well, you were guiding her and trying to save her and all this shit, but it kind of fell flat. It didn't really explain it. I mean, the premise for the game is ridiculous anyway, but which is fine. It doesn't have to make a lot of sense. So this piggy scene, right? But the story doesn't save it at all. The story doesn't really change anything. Oh yeah, you get in an elevator and then the pig just tries to claw you with a chainsaw, and then suddenly you have no weapons, because I had loads of weapons in the previous scene, loads of ammo. Suddenly you have no weapons, and you're in this place here. Anyway, So no matter what I do here, the pig's going to chase me. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go here and then here and then here. This is where I find the best place to do, and then you can hide it here. And you have to stop him 3 times. Yeah, I was glitchy as fuck with him, like, and you kill him eventually. I did look something up. I did look just how to do the by end of this scene. But yeah, that's the only thing I looked up in the game. But again, I don't mind looking stuff up as long as I'm honest with you. You know, like I'm never gonna not look. I'm not gonna look stuff up and then not say. You know, so you can judge me for what you want. But I looked up a bit of a thing. But again, I'm nothing against people who look stuff up or looking up stuff myself, as long as I'm honest about it. But the only caveat for review is that I finished the game, and I'm obviously gonna try and look up as little as possible. But yeah, so those were the positives. Just the bit. Obviously, I mentioned a lot of negatives as well. This is kind of a very mixed review in terms of the order I do things in. But the positives were just the sort of satisfying stealth kills, but the stealth wasn't very good in and of itself. Just the end result. The shooting was somewhat fun, but very flawed, and especially compared to today, and even compared to 2003, because I was in my 20s when this game was released, you know, and so I wasn't like young when this game was released, and even compared to games of the day, it wasn't seen as a masterpiece, you know. I mean, it got decent enough reviews and Metacritic, but it wasn't. There was definitely games that did basically everything that it does better, except the only thing that it has about it for it is the controversy, really. If it didn't have the controversy, if this was just like a man being framed and then set up and then having to escape the police or whatever, like I don't think it would have got nearly the amount of attention. And if it wasn't, let's be blunt, I mean, there's some companies that just get a lot more attention than others, like Nintendo. If Nintendo fought, then basically IGN will give it a 10 out of 10, you know. And it's one of them things. Rockstar, one of them companies that people worship and adore. And I'm not saying that they don't release good products, as do Nintendo. Nintendo do release I mean, they release some crap as well, but they release polished products for the most part. Nintendo and Rockstar as well. Although, you know, but this wasn't a polished product. This was a buggy mess. But they release good products, but I think they're overhyped, and I think their flaws are very much overlooked compared to other developers. It's like Call of Duty releases the same thing year in year out, but it doesn't get called out for the repetitive nature of the gameplay. But other games that release games every 3 or 4 years, and it's maybe the third iteration of the third, the second sequel, as in the third game of that series, they will get called out for being repetitive. I think you have to treat every game for what it is, and you have to be fair. And I don't think the game's media is fair. I think Manhunt was definitely, like, if people give it 8 out of 10, I think it's just overhyping it. You know, even for the time, I don't think it was an 8 out of 10. But the negatives would be the bugginess, the jankiness is very clunky, it's very buggy, the stealth doesn't work properly, the combat is god awful, it's really bad. Like, it's really just like, you punch me and then I'll punch you. And the gunplay sort of seemed like that as well. I got stun locked with the people firing SMGs. You get stun locked, and also the combat seemed to be about, like, if someone shoots me, then I can shoot them, and then they can shoot me, and just hopefully that they don't do that much damage, and then you get some pills, or you're far enough away so it doesn't hurt you that much. It didn't feel like a coherent game. There isn't really a proper cover system. There is this to look around corners, and you can also obviously hide in the darkness like we've done earlier, but there isn't really a coherent proper cover system. And some of the, it was just like, it basically, it was just a bad stealth game and a bad action game rolled into a package of titillation. Nothing worked really well. Whenever I'm playing a game, I will think about the score. I'll constantly think about the score that I'm going to give it. Not, it'll pop into my head. I'm not like obsessing about it. It never reached 7 out of 10 for me. 7 out of 10 is good. 5 is average. 6 is above average. I don't think I've been killed. And 7 is good for me. And then 8, 9, 10 you start to get into, you know, a special game like. And it never got to that 7. Like, no point of the game. Like, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't necessarily have to reach 7 for some parts of the game to reach a 7 for me. And you can, you know, differentiate different elements of the game, especially since this actually has it has different gameplay mechanics within it. But you know, if it was to rate the stealth, it would be like a 4 maybe, because there still was some elements of satisfaction. The gunplay was no, I'm not going to rate with the elements individually. I wouldn't. I'm not sure if I would give the stealth a 4 even. I'm not going to rate them individually because again, that can be misleading, and it's not. You know, I think the stealth was bad. I think the um, stealth games are always going to hold a place in my heart, and games that you can sneak up behind people and kill people. Doesn't matter if it's gratuitous or not. Will always be special to me. Like that mechanic, even that like though that mechanic has just held me playing a 20-hour game before. You know, like I love that. You know, but it wasn't done very well here. It wasn't very satisfying. A lot of the ground that you walked on made noise for no reason. The AI was quite glitchy. In a lot of the scenes, people would kind of, you know, go around together, so you couldn't really do it very well. Because obviously, if you killed someone close to someone else, they would chase after you. A lot of the gameplay of the game just evolved around killing someone and then running away to cover. And then it doesn't matter if it's just around the corner. Just go around the corner, hide in a dark corner, hide in a dark bit of the level, and as long as you were pressing triangle, then you were basically invisible, and then rinse and repeat. So it wasn't very dynamic gameplay. You could be a bit more aggressive at times. You couldn't fight two people at the same time. There was no skill to the combat. Like, I would love to see someone do a speed run of this and they kill like 10 people. There's definitely, you know, I'm not saying I had skill. I'm not saying I'm a good gamer. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, like, you know, I'm an average gamer. You know, I'm not complete shite at things. I'm not good at things, but I'm good at some things and I'm shite at other things. I would have got better at the combat if I'd obviously practiced with it. I didn't want to practice with it because then I could see exactly what it was. I could see through it. I don't want to practice with it, you know. But there is an achievement, for example, that killing 10 people with your fists in the one chapter. Now, there isn't enough, you know, so presumably you can do um, you can do a lot of the combat without taking damage, okay, but it doesn't make it good, and it doesn't make it skill based. Someone's just, you know, you can figure out the way to do it, but there's no skill involved. I mean, you might think that's contradictory, but I don't think that means that there's skill involved. I think there's a way to do it. There's like a cheap way to do it, but you know, there should have been combo systems with the fist or with the weapons. There should have been proper defensive maneuvers, not just holding back on the stick. You know, there could have been proper diversionary tactics rather than chucks. A lot of the diversion stuff that I tried didn't work. It wasn't. It didn't. It just didn't function the way it was supposed to. I think. I'm not sure, but yeah. So nothing quite worked as I would have liked. The story was not, you know, the story was dark, very predictable. It didn't really go anywhere. You did get to kill him in the end, which was good. Obviously a lot of the dialogue was cool, but it was very repeated, and it was very repeated. And some of the voice acting was really good. Like Brian Cox, I think, as the director. I think the voice actor for the main character was shit. The graphics are fine, you know. graphics are fine. I'm not again. I'm graphically and stuff. I never really give a fuck about graphics, except if it just doesn't make sense. You know, like say if I'm reviewing Minecraft or whatever. If you love the basics of Minecraft, that's brilliant. But the graphics are kind of an eyesore. Even at the time, they were an eyesore. You know, fine. I wouldn't. If I loved the gameplay, I wouldn't mark it down for that. And I would never mark graphics. But I think you can get muddy graphics. You know, you can get graphics that just don't make sense. So if as long as they're clean graphics, it doesn't really matter. I think graphics here were fine. They were obviously good for their day. They're still, you know, to be honest with you, better than some graphics today. You know what I mean? So no, the graphics are fine, but nothing felt brilliant about the game. I think if you take the titillation aspect of the game away, it's nothing. It becomes nothing. You know, there's loads of other games who've done stealth better. Loads of other games that have done every single aspect of it, of the gameplay better. So all things considered, I'm gonna give Manhunt. I do take into account whether the game has annoyed me, and it did annoy me. What's the bonus features? I haven't played them. No, I didn't unlock them, did I? I need to get a certain amount of stars, or whatever. I don't know. Just fan art. Oh, not fan art, but just art. Okay. I thought there was bonus scenes. I thought there's like 4 bonus scenes, but yeah, I must have had to get more stars or whatever. But yeah, I didn't really give a shit about stars. I mean, I think the basics of it were that, you know, one of the things is telling for me. There was a point where I killed, I think, 5 hunters, and there was a scene. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about this scene where you have to. Let me just get this. I'll come on to the score in a minute. I'll come on to the score in a minute. But let me just get this one. I don't. I think it's this one where his family get captured.
Hold up, Cash. You and your family weren't exactly close, am I right? It's just that I thought it would be nice to have a surprise reunion. But these war dogs didn't see it my way, and they've taken matters into their own hands. They're using them as bait, Cash. Bait. I know. I can hardly believe it myself.
Love the voice acting. It's class.
Each time they spot you, these war dogs are going to execute one of your beloved family.
No, I mean, you know, that's fucking lovely. Like, it's beyond the sarcasm there. Like, he set all this up and he's pretending he has nothing to do with it. You know, it's cool. But yeah, they have 4 family members. I saved 3 of them. I didn't go back and save the other one because I'd killed 5 people and I couldn't be bothered to do it again, you know. And that basically says it all for me. I just didn't really think the gameplay was good enough to even repeat to do an objective like save Cash's family, which says it all for me, to be honest. As to how little I was invested in the game. Where's the guy? The guy's usually walking here. There he is.
Movement, boys! I got movement!
Can we fight this? Oh, we can just shoot him. Okay. And that would be the feature in the game as well. Just spam you. Just spam you like. I could have blocked a wee bit, but yeah, spam. So now, if I go down here, right? This guy comes out of the building, and I have to go to the left instantly. Right.
Shame we can't feed some of these bozos to the original inhabitants.
Yeah, this was a zoo. So you get this glass, and you can free this guy. Which it doesn't say who any of these guys are. There's 2 men and 2 women. It doesn't tell you who they are.
Run!
No, one of the things as well is you can't look around. Like the stick, the left, it annoyed me very much at the beginning. I suppose I just adjusted to it. You don't have free movement of the stick. You can do this, but this is very awkward. Like it doesn't give you just like it's a third person game. Like why have to look in first person? You know, and yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. You should have free view at all times. Trying to maybe do it realistically, but anyway, just go back to this, right? Go back to this. I did struggle with the controls until about halfway through the game, probably, which didn't help. But again, I'm not saying that's all the game's fault. It might be mine, but I don't think the controls are very good either way, and the game is extremely clunky and extremely buggy. Now, in regards to these four people, you have 2 men, 2 women. I didn't even bother, as I say, saving one of the women who got killed because I didn't want to go back and do 5 people again. It didn't say who they were. It even said the cast didn't give a fuck about them. Well, if cast doesn't give a fuck about them, why do you give a fuck about them? And then in the next scene, they all get killed anyway. You know, before one of the next scenes, they all get slaughtered anyway. And then he makes a comment saying, "You didn't think I'd let them go," which is cool. I like that. You know, it's very dark, whatever. It's risque. You know, it's cool. But I don't know what the point of this scene was really. I mean, was it trying to get you in connection with Cash? You know, you don't even know what Cash has done. He's been in death row. You don't even know if he was innocent. You don't know what he's done. It didn't really connect you with Cash the whole way through, which I think it could have done. I think this family thing could have been, but this was one I forgot actually, and this was one of the more memorable things within the game. But yeah, again, not really much connection with your family, you know. Again, it just varied it up in superficial ways like this. The gameplay just varied it up. It tried to vary it up, a combination between different guns and different melee weapons and stuff. But honestly, it's kind of the same gameplay all the way through, and didn't really vary it up in many meaningful ways. Everything you go to looks pretty grim. What I did notice is, like, you get different shotguns, but they all feel much the same. You know, some have more in the clip, and you get different guns. They all feel much the same. You get a revolver and a pistol or whatever, a heavy pistol, whatever. You get an assault rifle, SMG, but none of them had good range. Because by good range, I mean like some of them had a decent enough range, but you needed to headshot people. You needed to be like with assault rifle. You couldn't headshot people from a distance. I couldn't headshot someone from, say, see the end of that wire there. See the first, you know, like this thing here. Start of that wire. I couldn't headshot someone from probably about here with the assault rifle. I probably would have had to be in about here. So then what the fuck is the point of assault rifle really? It's more powerful, whatever, it downs people, but so does the SMG, and I would like the assault rifle to be a bit better than what it was, to be honest. There wasn't mechanics like you couldn't headshot some people, you could headshot everyone even if they had masks on. The gameplay was very repetitive. But yeah, I just wanted to point the family scene out before I give it a score. I'd say before the pig scene I would have given it a 4 out of 10. I would have been below average. I think that would have been pretty generous, because again, emotion is involved in anyone's opinion and things, you know. And in terms of like, you can, you know, I don't like, this is art, you know, computer games, whatever, it's all creative stuff. It's all about opinion, and it did give me, so what does it make you feel, you know? And it did make me feel quite tense at times, which is good, you know. Not all of it was bad tension. It did make me the visceral nature of the combat, of the killing and stuff was good at times. Yeah, I think the general feeling of sort of foreboding and like kill or be killed, because at the end, like, you really had to be very careful about who you killed. But it was, again, I have a memory of games of this time, the PlayStation 2 era, because I started playing games in the fucking Game Boy era, you know. So I have a memory of the games in the PlayStation 2 era, and they were a lot of them were like this, like kill or be killed. You had to be very careful. You had to do cheap things like go around certain corners, you know, stifle them into different kill areas, you know, choke zones or whatever, you know. So you'd like stand behind here and they'd all just pile in there, whatever. That is a feature of games from this era. It's not particularly good game design. The AI was shit on it, so it kind of you know, it did all that. Sometimes it stood, but if the AI stood off and was more intelligent, then quite often they'd be looking in your direction. You'd have a gun, they'd have a gun, but you had to take. You didn't always have loads of bullets. Sometimes you had overabundance of bullets, but most of the time you had enough. But you couldn't expend like 5 bullets in one enemy most of the time. You had to kind of headshot, and also they would be shooting you at the same time, and there was a decent amount of pills, but it wasn't that you could just, you know, take any amount of damage you wanted. So you always have to be cautious with how much damage you took, and and cautious with how many bullets you expended. So the idea of like, you know, they wouldn't move, and you had to go into their zone of fire. You had to do that. You had no choice, and then you had to take some bullets. You know, there was times when you had to take bullets in this game. It happened quite a lot actually, and that's just bad. That's just objectively bad game design. You know, and obviously with the shit cover, the cover system that didn't work, you had to snap to their heads as well. You had to go to their butt. You know, if I used a gun, you had to, when you pointed towards them, the auto aim thing went to their bodies first, and then you had to snap it to their heads. You could never just snap it straight to their heads, even if you pointed towards their heads. It would always snap to the body first. So that didn't help. That couple of seconds, that hesitation, basically could be the difference between you taking damage and not taking damage. You know, obviously I could buy it all, but there was, you know, decent amount of trial and error, and it wasn't good. That aspect of it just certainly was not good. So I would give it a 5 out of 10 because I didn't, you know, it was below average. The game was definitely below average, but the game hadn't annoyed me up until the last level sufficiently for me to completely destroy it. And I did like, you know, the theme of the game, which is probably the darkest I've ever seen, even now, after playing a load of games in my lifetime. And I can't think of a darker theme. And just like it doesn't try to hide the theme, you know, the darkness of the theme. It's just there in your face, and it doesn't try and mask it with some comedy thing or whatever. I mean, there's comedy in the game as well, which is good, but it doesn't try and mask it with some sort of, you know, lesser, softer theme. It's just in your face, and I really, maybe that's where some of the emotional thing comes in, where I'm like, what in society today we are very censored. You know, things get censored all the time. There's always talk of with computer games that they're going to encourage school shootings and stuff, which is just not true at all. There's a lot of different complex things at work, none of which are computer games. There's all this talk of but that's, you know, there's all this talk of you know, of sensibilities, and you can't offend people and whatever. And you know, like if people want to slag me off for being Irish, for example, you know, that used to be. When I went to university 20 years ago, people would take the piss out of me for being Irish. I'd take the piss out of them for being Welsh or English or whatever, and no one would give a shit. You know, and it would be quite brutal stuff that would make people today fucking cry. But for some reason now, that's all been made taboo. And I mean, I'm sure they still take the piss out of each other, but in wider society, like, people would stand there with their fucking mouth agape, you know. And I think this game does a good job for me of just bringing me back to that time, because again, it was about the time I was in university. Well, it was out when I was in university, and it brings me back to that time where people were a bit more unafraid of what they had to say, you know. And Rockstar wanted to make a dark game, and they made a dark game. And even nowadays, I think the game developers are a lot more, they hold themselves back quite a lot, you know. And I remember Outlast getting a lot of stick for being a gory game and stuff. Just let it be a gory game, you know. Outlast 2 especially, I think, got a lot of stick for it. Just let it be a gory game, it's fine. If you don't want to play it, don't play it, but do not censor shit for other people. So that's what a bit of the, you know, I don't talk for other people, don't talk for society, don't talk about protecting children. You know, children are not as fragile as you think they are, but also you're putting an 18 in the game, so it's up to the parents to regulate what their kids play. If the parents literally don't have a clue about games, then at least look at the fucking the age tag, you know. But if you're gonna just let them play whatever they fucking want and they complain about it, that's your fault. That's not the game's fault. That's your fault. You know, as parents, bad parents, basically, bad parenting. So there is a bit of me that sort of feels, and also it brings me back to time. I mean, I played games for a long time. This brings me back to this period of games, which obviously a lot of games played, similar to this at that time. Although I think all the games did do it better, did do elements better. But the games also, some games did it worse, But it was it did bring me back to that time around 2003, whenever it was released around the millennium. So I think there's that element that actually brings it up for me, for what I actually think, for what actually my logical brain thinks. But the pig level near the end was just an absolute mess, and it just accentuated all of the flaws within the game. Bad AI, broken AI, buggy mess. Um, you know, yeah, and just didn't, yeah, that's basically it. So I'm gonna give this game. So at points I was looking at it for, as I say, I'm gonna give the game a 2 out of 10. It's either 2 or 3 really. I think the pig bit did bring it down 2 points for me. Because it did sort of I did think at that point that was a breaking point for me, where I just thought, I'm not going to forgive all the shit, because they've just, and there was a lot. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't just like, oh, the game was a 4 and then it brings it down to 2. I think the game was sort of, you know, different things at different points in the game you'll feel different emotions, and you'll feel high and low about different things in the game. And I think that was just for this particular game, and every game is different. That was the breaking point where I just said, I'm not going to forgive it, any of the mechanics. This just takes the piss. They've decided to do this. Fuck them. I'm going to give it. I'm going to refer more to my logical brain as opposed to my emotional one. I know that's kind of contradictory, because I've just said fuck them as in an emotional response to their game, but what I mean is my logical brain really says this is a 2 out of 10. The gameplay is not good at all. There's nothing really that holds it together except for the dark theme, and the dark theme is something for me that would give it a good, it would be the icing on the cake. But if every single thing is flawed underneath that, the game is worthless. And that's basically where it is for me. Whereas I think I've just haven't taken into account the emotional bits of it, as in bringing me back to my youth, and elements like that. I've just sort of forgot about that, and I could, I don't think it's just below average anyway. Really, I do think it's either 2 or 3 out of 10, which, you could toss a coin. I think it could be a 3, could be a 2. I think I'm reviewing this just after I did the pig level, just after I completed the game, and for me, I think that was a big element to me giving it a 2. And then even just after the pig level, you're going around with the chainsaw, which was shit, which should have been good. Like a lot of the time it give you fun things, but then it hampered you in some way. It should have been fun, the chainsaw, but it was the opposite of fun. And then I just had to kill someone, which is cool, beheading someone with the chainsaw, but then you had to go back to the gun, because you couldn't really, it wasn't fun to just go up behind people with a chainsaw and kill them. It's better with the gun, because you just got rid of people. So yeah, 2 out of 10 unfortunately. Maybe a 3 would be more fair, I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the 2. I think it's a disgrace how buggy this game was, and I think that's another deciding factor on the 2. So yeah, that has been an Irish Magician Reviews Manhunt, and I shall see you next time. Take it easy, bye bye.